Hello, my name is Todd Shepard, and I'm the Associate Professor of History at Temple University in Philadelphia. My current work, The Invention of Decolonization, the Algerian War, and the Remaking of France, has led me to gather information from those who have had first-person experiences in the French-Algerian War. The individuals in this film will retell their differing perspectives and experiences during the colonial war. These are their stories. I'd like to thank you all for being with us today. I'm going to start off with a few questions, but first I would like you to introduce yourself.
My name is Yafi Hakib. I was what's known as a Harki. I was an Algerian Muslim who supported the French.
And like my friend here, my name is Abdul Hadi, and I was also a Muslim Algerian and a Harki as well.
My name is Inam, and I was a Muslim living in Algeria at this time, and I did not support the French.
Okay. How did the struggle for the Algerian independence affect you?
Well, there was the Exodus, and I had wanted to live in France, but I was denied French citizenship in France. But I was promised this citizenship if I joined the French side of the controversy. And so I joined the auxiliary force as a Harki against the FLN movement. And after this happened, I supported the French presence in Algeria, and I realized that I could make a difference even though I was going against my country, and even though I gave up my Algerian civil status, that I would eventually get a better life and French citizenship if I became a Harki.
Okay. Why else did you decide to become a Harki?
Well, I thought that making Algeria more French would solve the crisis and what was going on. And I did it for personal benefits and my family as well, and also a little bit out of fear. I wanted to do what was best, and even though I went against my country and my country's own independence movement, I thought that I could have a better life in France with French citizenship.
Okay. Now this question is for all of you. How did the policy of French assimilation affect your life?
Well, the assimilation had a tremendous effect on me, as well as all my other fellow Muslims living in Algeria. France really tried to impress their laws, their culture, and their way of life on us, but this simply just didn't work, and it caused tension and ultimately led to the revolution. Coexistence was a concept that was tried and failed, having the French still be able to live their culture and us live our culture as well, but that also didn't work either, and the French continued to press assimilation upon the people. France being in Algeria could have potentially had positive effects being in Algeria. They could have helped our economy and their growth, but they just wanted all the power and control and wanted to make all of Algeria France, disregarding our culture. They assumed that we would have wanted French citizenship and their ways of life, but we have our own laws, the Quranic law, and the Jews as well also have their own laws, the Mosaic law, and those laws guide our day-to-day life. They're what we live by, government, religion, everything. And when you try to impress a new culture on something that already is established, it doesn't work. And it only divided Algerians and the French, and this led to rebellion, to the FLN, and ultimately the revolution.
The policy of assimilation had an enormous effect on my life. I chose to assimilate into the French way of life and supported the French government in becoming a Harki. In doing so, I turned my back to my fellow Algerian Muslims. But I did it because I wanted a better life for my family, and I was promised that I would be able to become a French citizen and move to France. So I accepted becoming a traitor in the eyes of my fellow Muslims for that. But after the conflict, when I went to France, I was denied entry, and I was sent to live in the desert in Algeria. And this was extremely bad for me because I had turned my back on my fellow Muslims. So I was living in the desert with my family as a traitor, but I should have seen it coming from the beginning. During the war, we were called servicemen from Algeria or North Africans. We were never referred to as equal. We were never French soldiers, even though we took a loyalty oath to France. So another reason why I joined was I wanted to try and fight the discrimination, but in the end it turned out that I was the one being discriminated against.
Wow, that's definitely powerful stories. Thank you so much for being here today.
Colonialism give you a headache? Tylenol.
Welcome back, everyone. I would like to introduce you to Saeed. Saeed, can you please?
My name is Saeed Youssef. I'm from Algeria. I live there, and I have for many years. I am very happy to be here today. It took a very long time, many flights, a lot of strange flying aircraft. Wasn't really familiar with these things.
I'm sure it was not only emotionally difficult, but physically as well. I really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for having me. It's really great to be able to share my story.
Well, thank you. First, I'm going to start out with a few questions.
All right.
How did it feel to be labeled a refugee?
It was insulting. Refugee seemed almost like a dirty word to me. When they deemed me and my family refugees, it seemed like some sort of strange insult. I mean, they took our land, and we followed their silly rules, maybe just to, stay on their good sides. But we moved from my family's ancestral lands. We've lived there for as long as anyone can remember. We moved to this small little hovel in town, and we thought that following their rules and trying to assimilate to their customs that they tried to impose on us, that it would grant us some sort of leniency. But in the end, it really didn't help at all. They seemed to only grant it to Harkies. And I was not willing to turn my back on my brothers because it just seemed so ludicrous to turn my back on my fellow Algerians to serve another country. And, it didn't really matter. During the Exodus, we tried very hard to get into France, and really it didn't help. After I learned that they were accepting only males and not families, I tried to go over there myself, and even then it did not work. And I went so far after learning that the Jewish, that they lost their papers and that they needed to pick their own names. So I tried to even change my name to Etienne. Fontaine, I believe, but nothing worked. And at the end, we stayed, and here I am today.
I'm sure it was difficult, as a
Yeah.
Muslim, even more so.
Yes.
Could you please tell me what it was like after the French left?
After the French left, there was a lot of confusion. With everyone leaving, a lot of things were left just up in the air. And we tried to move back out to the country. And, that's where I live now. I was managed to get back to my family lands, although they are very much changed from the way they were. It was just very difficult. After they'd done so much to try and change our country, we really just tried to bring it back, tried to take it back, make ourselves feel as though we were ourselves and not guests inside of our own homes.
Well, I really appreciate your dedication to your family. That takes a strong man to do so. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be right back after this break.
You dirty diaspora.
Dirty mouth, clean it up. Here's Orbits.
And now we have the pleasure of being in the presence of several French citizens. Could you please introduce yourselves?
My name is Raul Salan. I'm here to represent the OAS, which stands for Organization of the Secret Army. In fact, I'm one of the founder of the OAS. And our motto, or one of our goals, was Algeria is French and will remain so.
My name is Marcel Debrouille, a lifetime member of the French Communist Party, one of the oldest movements that supported the Algerian independence.
And my name is General Jacques Bassot, and I'm a general in the French Army.
and I was the commanding general during the Battle of Algiers.
Okay, for my first question, I was wondering, what does the term repatriate mean to you?
Well, the term repatriate, this notion of trying to bring back the French Algerians to France was never an option for the OS because we never wanted independence. We never believed in the independence of Algeria. I mean, we knew it was coming. I think we knew it was kind of inevitable. But then I think our goal was to keep pushing for it. And one of the reasons is that we believe that European attachment to the land is more important than being front. So we didn't really care about becoming a French citizen at all.
Dr. Shepard, I question Raoul's intentions here because I, as a communist, member of the Communist Party, believe Algeria is going to become independent no matter what. Their country is different than France's, and as a result, we should just separate. And that's why we supported the FON and the liberation movement.
As in repatriate, I don't believe the word should be used at all, because the French citizens in Algeria, as French citizens, they have a duty to their country to better the French Empire and hold on to one of the last territories in the French Empire. So I don't believe the term repatriate should be used.
Okay, what do you think about the veil on Muslim women?
Well, I believe that this Muslim Algerian community needs to move towards modernization. And the veil, I think, as the French government would argue, that it is a symbol of oppression to the Muslim woman. And I think I believe that. So I think we need to free or give independence to this country from all those backward and traditional practices.
As a member of the Communist Party, I believe the veil, although religious is not part of our movement, I believe the veil has been used, removing the veil, has been used as a way to modernize Algeria as an excuse for France to maintain their forces in there, as well as OAS secret police has done.
Okay, kind of staying with this whole religion aspect, how would you go about making the people of Jewish faith citizens of France?
Well, I think we should consider the Jews as an individual rather than an ethnic community. And going back to this idea of republicanism, individualism, I think since they were in Algeria, which was part of France, so they ought to be considered a French citizen.
I think, given the laws, that probably what you're saying is true, but in that I don't think that the Jews should actually stay in France. I think that seeing as the Jews have a homeland in Israel, that's where they should go. That was created for them, for that express purpose. So I believe they shouldn't have to become French citizens. They should go to Israel.
Hello, okay. I would like to thank you all for your time, and it's great having you here today. And thank you all.
Hello, folks. Can I introduce you guys in some wine? I have this nice communist wine here, and I also have a nice fascist wine as well.
Yes, communist wine would be excellent.
All right, well here you go.
you.
You folks have a great night.
Thank you.
Your smile, it's just so pluricontinental.
What? I think I gotta go. I think I left my stove on. So, thank you, though.
We are now here with the infamous Pied Noir. Before we begin, parlez-vous anglais?
Oui.
Bon, so we can continue in English. Could you please introduce yourselves for our audience?
I am Pierre Dubois, and I was part of the Pied Noir that was living in Algeria before independence occurred, and I was actually part of the minority that continued to live in Algeria after independence.
And my name is Benoit Lefebvre. I am a Pied Noir also, and I lived in Algeria up to their declaration of independence.
Okay. Well, talks of Algerian independence created a mass departure of Pied Noir back to French. Did you leave during the Exodus, or did you remain in Algeria?
I was actually part of the minority that stayed in Algeria after independence was declared. And the scene in Algeria after independence, it was very chaotic. There were many Pied Noir were trying to leave leave as soon as possible. But I stayed in Algeria because my family was from Algeria and they had been there since the late 1880s, and I felt as much of a sense of loyalty to the land of Algeria and the country as I did to France.
And I left for mainly two reasons. First of all, I was almost desperate to remain French. Algeria was my home, and I wished I could have stayed there, but that means I would have had to become an Algerian. And maintaining French citizenship was what was important to me, and myself and many other Pied Noir had to make sacrifices in order to do that. Secondly, I was worried about my family. We could have never been sure about a Muslim Algerians them retaliating in the country. And also, on the other side, we felt pressure from the OAS. They were torturing innocent people. They even attempted to assassinate de Gaulle. So my major concern was also keeping my family safe.
Now, when you arrived back in France, did you feel as though you and other Pied Noir received a friendly welcome?
No, it was actually almost the exact opposite. The government and the French people living within the country almost considered us as a burden. Partially I understand because of how many repatriates came back to the country, and it was way more than they had ever estimated, but it was still at the same time frustrating and difficult to understand. Because after all, us repatriates, we were just as French as any of them. So, but yeah, it almost seemed as if they thought we supported the other side or something, and that made many Pied Noir want to leave back to Algeria. So.
What about you? What was it like remaining in Algeria?
There were many hardships because all of the Pied Noir had been vilified because of some of the rash actions taken by the OAS. And most of the Muslims and Algerians didn't realize that not all of the Pied Noir were out for bloodshed, and that some of us, like myself and my family, were willing to peacefully coexist with the Algerians in Algeria. But unfortunately, we were alienated, and by both sides, the French too didn't accept the Pied Noir. So we were almost stuck behind a rock in a hard place, and life was hard either way, either in France or in Algeria, but I believe that I made the right decision to stay in Algeria where my family had been for a few generations.
Did you ever think of returning to Algeria?
I did. I would have returned if the OAS would have been successful in maintaining French rule in Algeria. It's where I was born and raised, and it's where I wanted to raise my family. But once it became apparent that Algerians would have their own country, then I decided to stay, and I believe I made the right decision. French territory no longer extended into Algeria, but so therefore I decided that my home was in France.
Well, can I just say that your English is impeccable, and I would like to thank you for coming. Merci beaucoup. And thank you for joining us today.